You have leaders in Congress and the military, both the old Biden administration and now the Trump administration. They're all trying to get a sense of why has the U.S. fallen so far behind in shipbuilding, and what is it that we can do to actually try to fix and address the issue. But one of the problems with the way that people talk about it is that there is a tendency to treat the economics separate from the national security part. And we really shouldn't be doing that because they're part of the same problem. They're just two different sides of the same problem. Hi, I'm Matthew Funaiole, Vice President for the CSAS Ideas Lab and Project Lead on the Hidden Reach Special Initiative. My colleagues and I, Brian Hart and Aidan Powers-Riggs, just put out a new report, Ship Wars, Confronting China's Dual-Use Shipyards. What a report does is it examines China's dual-use shipbuilding ecosystem. And specifically what we look at is, on one hand, China's dominance in the commercial shipbuilding space. And then on the other hand, we also look at the ways in which that dominance helps to support its ongoing military modernization. And what's important is that Beijing has blurred the lines here, and they've done so intentionally. They've blurred the lines between the commercial and the naval shipbuilding so that they're able to gain access to foreign revenue and foreign technology on the commercial front that helps to feed into the naval shipbuilding side of it. So it helps to offset some of those costs for building advanced warships and other types of service combatants. And that is one of the factors, not the only factor, but it's one of the factors that's helping China to rapidly expand its navy, which over time is going to have more and more serious implications for the balance of power in Asia. And right now is really a critical time for this, right? Because there's a lot of discussion that's going on. There's significant bipartisan support to look at this issue and try to understand what's going on. You have leaders in Congress and the military, both the old Biden administration and now the Trump administration. They're all looking at this and trying to get a sense of why has the U.S. fallen so far behind in shipbuilding, and what is it that we can do to actually try to fix and address the issue. But one of the problems with the way that people talk about it is that there is a tendency to treat the economics separate from the national security part. And we really shouldn't be doing that because they're part of the same problem. They're just two different sides of the same problem. And certainly we shouldn't be doing that because that's not how China treats it, right? They treat it as part of the same thing. And if we're going to have effective policy responses here, we're really going to need to address both sides of that issue. And our report puts a framework in place to help start doing that. If I had to really pull someone off the street and say okay, why do you need to care about this? Why is it something you need to really focus on, right? There's probably one way that we kind of crystallize it down that I think is important. And so you think about ships, you're thinking about hulls, but sometimes ships are bigger than other ships. So you really want to think about tonnage here, right? How many tons of ships are you producing at any given point at any given year? So tonnage is the measure. And if you look at the numbers, just one Chinese company last year, China's biggest shipbuilding company, it produced more vessels by tonnage than the entire U.S. shipbuilding industry has since the end of World War II, right? So I'm going to say that again. One Chinese company last year made more ships, basically, than the U.S. has since the end of World War II, all of those years combined. And so that's a big challenge, right? The U.S. is not, competing with China in this space. China's dominating in it. But we're at a point now where we can start thinking about what are the opportunities for us to build back some functional shipbuilding in the United States. We're not going to compete with China across the board, but there are some areas where we can start making investments and where we can put some, punitive measures in place, especially if we can work with some other countries around the world to try and target China in this area. There are some policies and some actions that are worth noting here. For example, the SHIPS Act, which was introduced to Congress last year with bipartisan support, it's likely to come back to the floor this year. That provides significant funding for the U.S. shipbuilding ecosystem and helps to draw in some foreign investment. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on. And then the other is some developments that happened over the last couple of weeks that the USTR has sort of taken aim on this issue and recently released a set of proposed actions to help level the playing field against Chinese shipyards. Those actions, if implemented, could have pretty significant implications for the global maritime shipping industry and also international commerce. Again, focus here is on the economic, but we try to raise the point in the report that you also need to be looking at the national security lens. And so we put through a lot of recommendations in the report. We crunched a lot of different numbers here, and we think we've put forth a pretty successful framework for addressing those economic elements, but then also really looking deeper into these dual-use shipyards and trying to find ways of staving off some of the things that China's doing to catch up to the United States in terms of its navy and how it wants to project power across Asia. To read our full report, Ship Wars, Confronting China's Dual-Use Shipyards, please visit csas.org.